Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. I'd like to welcome you to this week's episode. Today, I'm going to be talking about my experience seeing the Penn State Nittany Lions. I'm going to be going way back with this one, kind of early on in my hobby of seeing games, way before Selena was in my life. It's going to be going back all the way to the year 2008. Before I get into talking about my experience, I want to go over a little housekeeping. First off, if you would like to go on vacation, specifically a cruise, which is my specialty, or if you'd like to go see a game, maybe you'd like to go see Penn State one day as well, you can reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you with it as your travel agent. There's a couple ways that you can get a hold of me. One way is through social media. I have both an Instagram and a Facebook account, and they're both the same name, Jay's Paradise Travels. That's Jays. There's no apostrophe in that. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can send me a message through one of those platforms. Or if you'd like to shoot me an email, my email address is j.paradise.travels@gmail.com. So again, jay.paradise.travels@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot me an email and again, be happy to help you out with the vacation. Okay, so the housekeeping's out of the way to begin with. Now let me go ahead and talk about my experience with the Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State is a team that I think about. They're not because I'm a Michigan guy, right? You see Michigan all over my room. They're not exactly up there when it comes to Michigan's rival. Like they're not Ohio State, they're not Michigan State, the in-state rival, and they're not the biggest rival of Ohio State. But they're still a team that is a good team and can give Michigan fits, and Michigan gives them fits, and they go back and forth. They're both good teams, so it's not exactly a rival per se as regards like Ohio State and Michigan State, or even Michigan Notre Dame a while back. But still is going to be a good classic Big Ten game. And Penn State is the one and only team that I went to see Michigan on the road. This game was between Penn State and Michigan. So normally I mention how I'll go see a game and I'm that team. I'm their fan for one day. Well, unless they're playing one of my teams, then I'm not going to be rooting for them. And this was the one college football game that I went to that I was not a you know whatever that team was fan for a day. In this particular case, Penn State. I of course rooted for Michigan. The experience, as I mentioned, it goes way back. So I have a friend that was one of my closest friends as we were teenagers. Eventually, I moved to New York, came back, and then he eventually moved to New York and has been out there pretty much ever since. Um, and then that crossing, I eventually moved down to Houston, and I think we kind of met up once, or I saw him one time when I was visiting up in Michigan, and he was driving back, and apparently on his way back, driving home to New York, I guess he was able to see the stadium. Somehow they went through there. He got to see the stadium. He told me about it, and I was a little jealous in a fun way, like, oh man, you got to see it. I haven't got to see it yet. But anyways, he was the one I reached out. It wasn't that long after that I reached out to him when I was looking at the schedule. I was like, hey, Michigan's going to be playing at Penn State this upcoming year, and this was years ago. Would you be willing to go to see the game? Yeah, I know you've seen the stadium. Would you be willing to drive out to the game? I want to say it's maybe how long was it? A few hour drive. He was up for it. All right, cool. So I went online when the tickets were available, bought the tickets online. Um, Back then, it was kind of like through the university website. Was able to get us a couple tickets, and he's like, "Yeah." When I told him the price, he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. I'll pay you when you get here." So I bought the tickets, and at the time I was working for the airline, so I flew up to New York to visit him for the weekend. And I want to say I was there maybe like Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, came back Monday or came back Sunday, something like that. I was there for the weekend. Went up there, picked me up. It was great to see him again. We stayed at one friend's house one night, and then I think the next night stayed at another friend's house or something like that. He had some friends in the area. We stayed because where he lived and where we were at, it was just kind of different. So, anyways, we were staying at some friend's house, and we drove to the game. Um, And like I said, I want to say it was maybe a few hours, 2, 3 hour drive, something like that. I can't remember exactly. It's going way back, but it wasn't like around the corner. It did take at least a couple hours to get there, and it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. You drive up there, and yeah, I don't recall seeing any humongous buildings or anything like that. Now, obviously, it's a university. There must be a campus somewhere, and I'm sure that there's some life and some activity somewhere. But where the stadium was, it felt like it was like in the middle of nowhere. uh, but pretty area though. I mean, we got there and we parked. It wasn't even like there was parking lots and structures and stuff like that. I felt like we just parked on the grass in the surrounding area of the stadium. This was years ago. Maybe since then they've changed that. I don't know, but typically colleges that have been around a long time, they seem to stick around with the same things for many years. But yeah, we kind of just parked on the grass somewhere, got out. I mean, there was a stadium right there. We could see it, took a picture of it, and it's like, all right, cool, here we are, nice. And we walked up there. Um, Now this was in October time of 2008, fall time, uh, nice, cool fall day. Leaves had changed color, so it was really pretty. Even though I felt like it was kind of like in the middle of nowhere, I still was able to take some pictures of the area, the trees change color. That's one of my favorite things about fall. You get that little bit of cooler weather, that crispness in the air. Um, you get the leaves changing color, footballs on. Those are a few of my favorite things about fall. And of course, when we went there, I got to experience all of that day. It wasn't like freezing where we had to be bundled up, but we weren't in t-shirts either. I mean, we did have shirts. I think I had my Michigan jersey on, and I had like a Michigan uh, uh, sweatshirt, kind of thing. And that was comfortable. We were comfortable with that. So it was a nice fall day. Real pretty view from what I was able to see where we were at. Uh, yeah, I gotta love at least up here in the Midwest, fall time, football in the fall. It's really nice. Definitely, if you're in the Midwest, you probably know what that's about. If you're out west or in the South, may not get it as much. But if you ever come up here for a game in the fall time, it's a pretty cool, literally a pretty cool experience. It's cool. It drops down to 50s, 60s, whatever maybe. It's a cool experience. Okay, enough of those puns. We get there, park, start walking into the stadium, and it's a big stadium. Penn State has a big stadium. We were able to kind of walk around a little bit as we're getting to our seats. Some interesting things happened as we were walking around trying to get to our seats. One, um, as we're kind of in a big crowd and we're I don't want to say we're rushing or walking or what we were. I feel like we were going a little fast, but next thing you know, I mean, I wasn't paying too much attention. It was just kind of in the corner of my eye, but I see this Penn State fan kind of like rubbing his hands. He's standing right like on the edge of a walkway or something. And as we're coming by, he's doing that, and as soon as we get by, he screams out loudly right in my ear, "You suck!" And of course, the rest of his friends and the Penn State fans that were around kind of cheered with it. We just kept going. We ignored it. I think I look back like it was almost like a surprise, but that was my first time like really having someone in my face. Now, of course, this is my first time going to an away Michigan game, but even when I had gone to away games with other Detroit teams, no one ever got in my face about it. Um, that was my first time ever experiencing that, and uh, and then even later on after the game was over and we were leaving, this one girl, she was a Penn State fan. She was like standing by the porta potties or something like that, and she just saw us and just kind of like cussed at us. And like, all right, we didn't respond. We're not that way. Um, but and I'd heard, oh, Penn State fans are nice. Penn State fans are nice. Like, not the ones I experienced, but whatever. Anyways, I'm sure there's others that are nice, but maybe we just got a couple bad apples that day or what. College sports brings out that in people. For whatever reason, college sports does that. It's just very tribalistic. And I again, Michigan and Penn State are not even. It's not Michigan, Ohio State. It's not Michigan State. Penn State's big rival. Who is their big rival? I mean, Pittsburgh. They're not even in the same conference. They're in the same state. Maryland is kind of close by. Rutgers. I don't. I'm not even sure who Penn State's biggest rival is. But anyways, it just college sports brings that out of people. It's just very tribalistic. I mean, if you were to go on a message boards and things, you just see all this vitriol. And that's why a lot of times in my podcasts, when I mention about making a comment, just keep it clean. Don't really want that. Again, and this is a travel podcast. It's a travel agency. It's not sports. I just happen to like sports and gone to a lot of sports games and like to talk to you about sports and can even help you with going to a sports game. But it's not a sports podcast. So keep all that hatred and vitriol that you have for another team outside. I don't want that in here. And even if you notice with me, when I talk about teams at Michigan or Detroit teams that are rivals, I mean, I try to be respectful too. And a lot of time I think about it is because of being professional as well. This is my business. If I start talking about another team or another fan base or another specific player or coach, they may be listening to me and may have been interested in booking a travel with me. But if I start talking negatively about them, they're not going to do that. So that is part of it too. So even those the rival fans, rival coaches, maybe even if someone I don't particularly care for on a sports level, but if they come to me and want a cruise or something, I will happily do that. That I can be professional enough to put the sports aside and help you out with whatever the vacation needs are and look for the best deal for you and everything. I'm not gonna let this the sports rivalry creep into the business. So little explanation on that. Anyways, with that being said, that's what happened to us. We did get that, and then even where we were sitting in this Michigan student section, which was cool. I mean, 100 and something thousand fans there. Most of them are going to be Penn State. You're kind of alone in that. You're the minority, but we were at least amongst the Michigan fans. But the two people standing next to me were Penn State fans. How two Penn State fans got into the Michigan section, I don't know. Maybe they got it through a friend or bought them online. I don't know, whatever it is, but and they were right there yelling, jeering, being kind of obnoxious to the just in general. But to me, like talking to them one on one, they were actually not bad at all. They were pretty nice. They were civil. They understand hey, it's just a game, and that's how I am too. It's just a game. I get it in the as you're watching the heat of the moment as things go on. You want your team to win. Things can get kind of exciting or emotional or whatever, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's just a game. And it took me many years to finally come to that realization. It's just a game. So we get there, I go through that. That was one of the interesting experiences, I guess you could say I had. But another one too that I thought was interesting and even kind of cool. That we were walking around again, trying to get to our seats, and we did get there early enough, which was good, to be able to be there on time for the game to start, and even all the pregame stuff too. So that was nice. Um, as we're walking around again to get to our seats, we get stopped at one point and we're like, what's going on? Well, the we were at the point where the players actually come out, I guess, from their locker room. They walk through this little area, they go out into the field, and we were right there. I didn't get a picture of it. I should have. Um, but yeah, they were walking out onto the field. Got to see it wasn't the Michigan team, it was the Penn State team. So a lot of Penn State fans were there. They were excited about that. Some stadiums do that. Years later, I noticed that I was able to do that at Illinois. I was able to be right there as they were coming in and out of the locker room. Um, I'll have to talk about that maybe in another podcast. But at least in Penn State, it was the same situation. Um, Kind of cool to be able to see the team coming out, even though it wasn't my team, but just to see them kind of cool. And then we eventually did get to our seats. We were there early enough. We got to see all the pregame. So they came out, but we also got to see them come out at a different time, like for all the pomp and circumstances that a sports team will do when a team does enter into the field for the game itself. Because you can come out to practice and then eventually go back and then come back out again. That happens a lot, actually. Um, yeah, so we were able to see uh, um, all the pregame stuff with Michigan and Penn State both, warming up and doing all the stuff before the game. Anyways, yeah, did that, and then let me see here. There was more stuff. I wasn't quite sure to talk about it under my experience or talk about it under when talking about the stadium itself. Maybe I'll save it for the stadium itself. As regards the game itself, now, of course, I'm going to be rooting for Michigan here. As I mentioned, I'm not going to be a Penn State fan for a day. Uh, Michigan ended up taking the lead to start the game, which was kind of I wasn't expecting it. I'll put it that way. This was the first year for Michigan head coach Rich Rodriguez, or Rich Rod for short. Many Michigan fans don't care for him. He didn't do very great with the team. Again, I'm going to be careful with what I say. He or his family, friends may be listening to me, may want to book something. I will be happy to do that for them. I doubt they're listening though. I doubt any college uh, player, coach, or any professional sports teams player, coach are listening to me. But in case they are, anyways, he didn't do very hot, especially his first year. Didn't do very hot at all. They'd only had 2 wins up into that time. And Penn State was undefeated going into that game. So I did not have high hopes for Michigan. But they ended up surprising me by coming out and scoring the first touchdown of the game and going up 7-0. And even was driving, got inside the red zone, I think even up to the goal line. And I'm thinking they score here and go up 14-0. That is big. They didn't do that. They ended up kicking a field goal. And I've said this many times. A 10-point lead in football is a very deceiving lead. Had they gone up 14-0, I would have felt a lot more better, and I think the team would have felt a lot better too. But they didn't. They kicked the field goal. They settled for a field goal instead of getting into the end zone. So it was 10-0. All right, you thinking, okay, cool. They still have a 10-0 lead, but Penn State immediately responds and drives down the field and scores a touchdown. Now it's 10-7, and this is where I'm like, hmm, because you go up 14-0 on somebody, even if they score a touchdown, they have to score another touchdown just to tie. But if you're up 10-0 and the other team scores a touchdown, now they've got momentum and they're only down 3 points. They can easily tie with a field goal and they score another touchdown. They got the lead. Happens a lot. And so I was very disappointed and uneasy with that field goal instead of a touchdown. In the second quarter, so that was the first quarter, 10-7 at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter gets underway and they exchange touchdowns. Michigan scores again, takes a 17-7 lead. All right, cool. Had that, but then Penn State drives down again and scores a touchdown right before halftime. All right, Michigan still has a lead, 17-14, but I'm not feeling good about it. It's only 3 points. They could have, if they would have been up, let's say 21-14, could have been a different story. I think mentally you just are in a different headspace as football players. I'm not a football player. This is what I'm guessing based on what I've observed over the years. All right, so it is 17-14. Third quarter starts, and Penn State kicks a field goal, tie the game, and then gets a safety. A safety. I mean, come on, really? A safety. And they take their first lead 19-17 and basically never look back. In fact, Michigan didn't even score in the second half. They added another touchdown in the third quarter. They took a 26-17 lead. And you can see where this was going. Fourth quarter comes around. They tack on not one, but two field goals and touchdowns. 20 points in the fourth quarter, just blow it wide open. I'm sitting there just watching it. Nothing I can do about it. And back then, when I was younger and not as mature, I did get extremely upset when my team lost. It was just always heartbreaking and heart wrenching. Um, it's just horrible. The final score ended up being 46-17. Penn State won. My one and only time going to see Penn State. Wasn't even rooting for them, and they won 46-17. The stadium itself. Now here's what I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit more of what I thought about talking with experience. I'm going to talk about the stadium itself. First off, the stadium itself. It's called Beaver Stadium, and it is a huge stadium. The capacity is 106,572, and that day the attendance was 110,017. I looked around, no arguments there, absolutely none. I know it's a big stadium, Big Ten has like three of the top, I don't know, at least top five biggest stadiums in the country. Michigan is number one. Penn State, Ohio State's up there, all over 100,000. I think Tennessee's another one. Who else is after that? That's 100,000. That's at least. Now, who falls under Michigan in what order? I don't remember. I know Michigan's the top, but is Penn State ahead of Ohio State with more? Is Ohio State more than I don't remember, but they're up there. They're at least in the top five. Huge stadium, definitely no arguments there when I saw the crowd. It was definitely packed, and it's an older stadium. It does look like it's been there a while, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a nice stadium. It was definitely nice enough, but you could tell it's been around a while, and they have two stories when it comes to the end zone, and that's where we were. We were on the second story, kind of in the corner. That's where they have the student section. And I noticed other games watching Penn State as time's gone on, like they usually put that student section of the other team in that like corner in the upper level, um, which it was fine. I didn't mind sitting there. I do prefer to be a little closer to like uh, sideline if I can. I think that's a nicer view than the end zone, but or the corner. But that's where they were, and that's where we were, and it was fine. Um, and one thing that I have to say when it comes to um, Penn State, I get this question asked a lot when I mention about this is my hobby. I like going to see different stadiums, go to different games. What is your favorite stadium? I get that question a lot. Excuse me. And I say, of course, outside of Michigan, because I'm probably a little biased on that, right? But it would be Penn State. Now, whether I don't know if they're specifically asking for the stadium, like the design, the build, I don't know. But my favorite game that I've ever gone to, outside of being at a Michigan game, is Penn State. Now, granted, they were playing Michigan at the time. That didn't have anything to do with it, though. Penn State, for whatever feelings I may have towards Penn State, the dislike isn't as high as Ohio State, Michigan State, whatever. Michigan fans, I don't think, dislike Penn State like they do those teams. Um, but they don't love them either. So regardless of the feelings towards Penn State, I will give Penn State credit that it was the most electrifying atmosphere I've been to a game outside of Michigan Stadium. Um, and yeah, I and I'm trying to think even would it even be on top of Michigan? I'd have to really think about that. As regards like the electrifying atmosphere. It, where we were, I mean, we sat maybe 5 minutes that entire game. We were standing up. It was just a loud atmosphere, um, very electrifying. That's what I love to be a part of. And sadly, my team was the losing team that I was rooting for. I was rooting for the road team, and that was kind of why it was like, I don't care to see my teams on the road if I can help it. Sometimes just based on the scheduling and what I have available, and it just works out that way. Um, but if preference, and I think that was kind of the start of it, I'd rather not see my teams on the road. I'd rather go there and be a part of the home crowd, be a part of that electrifying atmosphere if it is. So I probably won't go back to Penn State just because there's so much other teams I need to go see. But if somehow the circumstances arrive to go, I would be excited to go see him again. Hopefully not Michigan, and to be a part of the electrifying atmosphere. Um, and part of it just what I wrote down for like miscellaneous things that I was going to talk about. Penn State, they do have one of the most electrifying crowds in the nation, and they even sometimes do what's called a whiteout, where everyone's wearing white shirts, or something white, I should say. Yeah, right. And the whole stadium is white. The game we went to was not a whiteout, but they'll do that, and you have that going on. It's just I mean, just an awesome thing to look at and be a part of. I've seen it where also they've done it like in strips, like one section's white, one section's blue, one section's white, one section's blue, because that's their colors, white, blue, and their uniform. I mean, they're very like kind of basic with it. You don't see a lot of stuff on their uniforms or their helmets. It's kind of just the colors, either white or blue. Almost kind of reminds me of like practice jerseys a little bit. But they're very basic with that. But that color scheme sometimes uh, you'll see in the stadium with either the stripes or the whiteout. And at night, especially, that can be a very hard place to go play at, and it would be an awesome place to be a part of a game. Definitely recommend going if you haven't been, whether you're a Penn State fan or not. That is definitely a stadium, a game atmosphere that I recommend going to see. And when asked what is my favorite, I say outside of Michigan, obviously I'm a little biased, but outside of Michigan, Penn State. Penn State is the one that I had the greatest time at, despite my team getting blown out. That was one of the best college game atmospheres I had ever been a part of. And I've been to some of, and I the ones that do have the 100,000 I've been to. I've been to Tennessee. I've been to Ohio State. I've been to USC. Um, and other big name programs, Oregon, um, that do have good crowds. No doubt about it. But I will give Penn State the top notch on that. So far, I've not seen or been to a game that had a better atmosphere than that Penn State Michigan game I went to in Happy Valley. Happy Valley, which I think it's University Park is where the the, um, the city. Happy Valley I think is kind of more of a nickname. And it's Beaver Stadium, which is kind of a funny name. There's no Beavers. I mean, they're not the Beavers. They're the Nittany Lions. They're not just the Lions. They're the Nittany Lions. Which even then, I remember like, what is a Nittany Lion? And I was asking people around. I figure, okay, I'm going to a Penn State game, surrounded by Penn State fans. Someone's got to know the answer. I literally sat. Well, no, I take that back. Stood. We hardly sat the entire game. Like I said, maybe 5 minutes. I literally stood next to two Penn State fans. What does Nittany Lions mean? They didn't know. Like, well, that's the name of the mountain range. Okay. I guess it's after that. Couldn't be just the Penn State Lions. They had to be the Nittany Lions. All right. It is what it is. I'm sure Nittany Lions fans look at Wolverine fans thinking, Wolverines, really? There's no Wolverines even in the state of Michigan. Not anymore. Used to be. All right, whatever. Again, that's where college fans go kind of nuts with each other and have to somehow find a way to undermine the other team. Always. Just can't be civil. Just have to undermine it, devalue everything that the other team does or is. That's is what that's college fan, and I enjoy watching college football. I really do. College football is a fun sport to watch, and games like that I went to are part of it. Just they're fun atmospheres. It's sad that they get so much hatred between teams, and it just the vitriol that comes from it just is kind of sad. Kind of brings the brings the sport down a little bit, in my opinion. Anyways, all right. So at the time, back then, it was 2008. Joe Paterno was coaching Penn State. He was their legendary, famous coach that coached them for decades, literally decades. Um, and that was before any of the thing that happened with what's his name? Sandusky? Forget his first name. Was it Joe? Well, anyways, it was before any of that happened. Before their current coach right now, 2025, James Franklin. I think even between that, there was Bill O'Brien coached him for a little bit. Yeah. So that was back then with Joe Paterno. So I got to see him coach a game and demolish my team. Prior to that game, though, Rich Rod took over and drove the team to the ground that year. Michigan had won 9 straight games against Penn State, starting from '97, the year that they won the national title. Prior to that, Penn State had won like 3 in a row shortly after joining the Big Ten. They joined the Big Ten, I think, in the '90s. They had won 3 in a row after Michigan won the first meeting. And then, yeah, so Michigan rattled off 9 straight, just win after win after win after win. Rich Rod comes into town, becomes head coach, drives the team to the ground, does awful, and of course they snap the losing streak. And of course I'm there when they snap the winning streak. Uh, Figures. That year Michigan did horrible, 3-9. Um, yeah, that was bad. One of the worst Michigan seasons I can think of. Penn State, on the other hand, did excellent. Um, they were undefeated going into that game. This was in October, so it wasn't like the beginning of the year where you're like 2-0 or something like that. No, they were like I don't know, 5-0, 6-0. I can't remember what they were that year. Let me take a look. 8-0. Okay, so yeah, it was decent time into the season. They were 8-0. Or at least 7-0. They may have been 7-0 and that made them 8-0, or they were 8-0 that made them 9-0, one of the two. They were undefeated, and they even went to Ohio State next year. And I remember telling the fans, because obviously I didn't like Ohio State, telling the fan next to me, I will be rooting for you guys so hard next week when you go to Columbus. And they did. They actually went into Columbus and won. All right, cool. That doesn't happen very often. Uh, and then they lost in Iowa the following week. That was the only loss up until so that I think that year they either won the Big Ten or had a share in it, something like that. They ended up going to the Rose Bowl and losing to USC. Back then, USC, whenever they won the Rose Bowl or played anyone from the Big Ten, they just smoked them. That was when Pete Carroll was coaching them. They had a pretty good dynasty going around that mid 2000s era. Um, yeah, so they went and lost to USC. Now USC's in the Big Ten. Pete Carroll's not there with them. They're not destroying the Big Ten like they were back then. But yeah, Penn State had a pretty good year, and then since then, things have come out with Penn State. What happened with Sandusky? They had a little bit of a they got in some trouble with that, but they recovered pretty nicely from it. Bill O'Brien kind of bridged the gap up until James Franklin came. James Franklin's been there for a while, um, and he's a great recruiter. Penn State always has great teams, but they kind of seem to struggle to win the game that matters the most. Whether that's Michigan or Ohio State, Oregon, now recently. Um, they went to the college football playoff last year. Who did they lose to? Is it Notre Dame? Something like that. Again, I'm recording this in 2025. What happens come this year? We'll see, or the following years to come. They got a great recruiter. Just seems to be like you can't seem to win always the big games. Whether or not this will be their year or not, we'll see. Um, and if it's not Michigan this year, and it ends up being Penn State that wins it, it's not Ohio State. It's someone from the Big Ten. That's all right. I won't hate it. I the last time they won a national championship, I think, was under Joe Paterno back in maybe the 80s or 90s, something like that. Been a while. So they may be long overdue for one. Again, I don't dislike them as much as I dislike Ohio State or Michigan State or anything like that. I don't love them, but I don't feel as strongly the dislike for them. Obviously, if Michigan plays with Penn State, we're in for Michigan. Um, anyways, and I think that's all that I can think of in regards to telling about it. Again, I will reemphasize that was outside of going to a Michigan game where I'm biased. that was the best atmosphere, the best game I had gone to. Favorite favorite stadium, favorite game day atmosphere, all of that was Penn State, and that's what I tell people when asked when is your favorite. It was that. And if that sounds like something you'd like to go see one day, get to go and enjoy that electrifying, raucous atmosphere there at Beaver Stadium, let me know. Or if you want to go on vacation, um, go to on a cruise, which is my specialty, or something else, let me know too. Once again, I have a couple different ways that you can reach out to me. One of the ways is through social media. Again, Facebook and Instagram. Feel free to leave me a message so I can respond to you. Jay's Paradise Travels. Jays, no apostrophe. Jay's Paradise Travels. Feel free to reach out to me, send me a message, or if you want to shoot me an email, again, you can email me at j.paradise_travels@gmail.com. jay.paradise_travels@gmail.com. Either one of those ways. I'd be more than happy to do that for you. Love to be your travel agent, your family, your friends' travel agent. Try to make this world a happier place, one vacation at a time. So feel free to reach out to me. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. All those good stuff that helps podcasters keep their podcasts going, as well as for myself, running a business again, trying to be your travel agent, and anyone else love to help them out too. So it's all part of that. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something from it, took something away, got you maybe excited to go to a football game. And if it is, let me know. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye bye.